I first met Lew Welch in 1958 when he hung up his wedding ring on a nail in Gary Snyder's cabin in Mill Valley. Very symbolic and ending act. To read from his preface of Ring of Bone. I once took a guided tour through a California winery, and the guide, a young man about 20 years old, droned away with his memorized speech of facts and figures, chanting them perfectly in that guide chant all of us have heard. And suddenly he stopped and yelled, "Whose kid is that?" A small child was determined to fall into a 500-gallon vat of wine. The force of real speech slammed against false speech was startling as a thunderclap, and not because he called out loudly. I vowed never to release a poem of mine which couldn't at least equal the force of that guy's "Whose kid is that?" Pound said that poetry ought to be at least as well written as prose. I say that poetry ought to be at least as vigorous and useful as natural speech. A Round of English for Philip Whalen. The day I first woke up, everybody had scabs on their eyes, and I couldn't get to a mirror fast enough. Everybody said that nothing had changed because nothing ever could. I thought I knew how to talk, but somebody showed up who could have heard it all, and I didn't have a thing to say. Somebody else said, "Proust." It was all about a lady who gave vulgar soirees. It was all about whales and harpoon sharks, sharp enough to shave with. And look, if you're really interested, which I seriously begin to doubt, you'll get it from the guys he stole it from. She buried her bosom, I walked out my knife, carved my initials on her thin breastbone. Thin brass dome, that's beautiful. How'd you ever think of a thin brass dome? And someone as young as we were sagged into the room, face all caked with blood and clothes still damp with the natural leakage of a 5-day wine drunk. Oh, I may be inverted, but thank God I'm not insatiable. There'll be beans, enough for you and me on the farm, in the store, dry height. I always used a certain kind of notebook because it took the ink well. Saints are wellfish, iridescent as horsefly ink should be, should float upon the aged scroll, and lost my rained on swan's way, notes on the flyleaf, quote, water lily image, his old church, lost my footlocker full of notes, letters from cracking up friends, half notes from landlords, impassioned scribblings from urinal walls, carbons of letters, my own so young. Please don't leave garbage in the hallway, as garbage attracts termites, and termites are the one thing we haven't had. After the dowsers and Hindus and parables of Zen, the writers by century and all of their friends, who knows how many sick Frenchmen and all those Americans coming on bought free, I never had time to read. Came then to Chicago to matriculate among the pros. I always expected to find among those buttresses some rude Falstaffian man surrounded by dogs, polishing at the armor of his lord. Instead, heard the voices of children raised in song. Shakespeare, Milton, Shelley as well, Sarah something Teasdale, Edith and thou. I wonder what I thought I'd find in all those books. Probably what's there from time to time, but how could I have known that? I wonder what it looked like then. Some young, horrifying thing all muddy and lurching and proud. I sat brooding where the park is Japanese with slanting rocks and undernourished trees. Is beauty that's blown from the oldest sea, but beauty that's born in the mind's eye? We who treasure it, just vain, deluded men, taut hands, shove her skirt, now to the right, now to the left. There's nothing more to do today, nothing more to do, nothing more to do today, nothing more to do today, to do today. And no explanation but the oldest one of all. Lady, your visit alone is important to me, though I am often inadequate to your simple demands. For your sake, I am unemployable in the world of man, am often cruel to friends and cannot keep my promises. Just when I think I know you, you take capricious form. Chair, to rock, to see, to little girl reading on the supermarket steps, tongue beneath teeth, so serious, legs spread wide, a characteristic pose. Oh, waitress in a soiled uniform, finally bringing me my check. And will that be all, sir? Yes. Lew's letters are one of the great, enjoyable sequence of letters to read. There are 2 volumes called I Remain. And he has a series of when he meets William Carlos Williams at Reed College. Dear all, it looks as if I am destined to be one to whom interesting things happen. I really have had an interesting time with Dr. Williams, so exciting in fact that I can hardly come to really believe it. I can, actually now, but it took some time to do it. He was reading his poetry last night and got very worked up himself, very intense and simple, and it was like watching a good jam session. He said, "These may not sound like poetry to you. No matter. Don't define the darn things. Let them come to you. And besides," he said, "they're in your own language." That's his kick. We speak American, and the poet's job is to intensify the dialect, keep the words clean and sharp, and make things out of them. And he's right. One hears the language of conversation in a wholly different way after reading him. Words become lively, and poetry unaffected. Circle poems. Whenever I have a day off, I write a new poem. Does this mean you shouldn't work, or that you write best on your day off? For example, this is the poem I wrote today. When he was 20, he understood some of the secrets of life and undertook to write them down so simply that even an idiot could understand. For, he reasoned, if I can't do that, I don't understand it myself. He proved himself right. When he was 50, he didn't understand it himself. Why is it, he said, that no matter what you say, a woman always takes it personally? I never do, she said. From the way out, he thanks his woodpile. The wood of madrone burns with a flame at once lavender and mossy green, a color you sometimes see in sari. Oak burns with a peppery smell. For a really hot fire, use bark. You can crack your stove with bark. All winter long, I make wood stews. Poem to stove, to woodpile, to stove, to typewriter, woodpile, stove, and can't stop peeking at it. Can't stop opening up the door. Can't stop giggling at it. Shack simple. Crazy as Han-Shan, as Wittgenstein in his German hut, as all the others ever were and are. Ancient order of the fire gigglers, who walked away from it finally, kicked the habit finally of self, of man-hooked man, which is not, at last, estrangement. I burn up the deer in my body. I burn up the tree in my stove. I seldom let a carrot go to seed, and I grind up every kind of grain. How can I be and never be an inconvenience to others here, where only the vulture is absolutely pure, and in the Chicago River are carp? Whenever I make a new poem, the old ones sound like gibberish. How can they ever make sense in a book? Let them say, he seems to have lived in the mountains. He traveled now and then. When he appeared in cities, he was almost always drunk. Most of his poems are lost. Many of those we have were found in letters to friends. He had a very large number of friends. 3 letters from Marianne Moore. Lew sends Marianne Moore a copy of his first book, Wobbly Rock, published by Our Hen Press in 1960. That must be Marianne Moore. To Lew Welch, Brooklyn, April 27th, 1963. Very exact, Mr. Welch. Wobbly Rock. My thanks. Did not see your letter, just the rock at first. You really can write. Marianne Moore. May 11th, 1963. Thank you, Mr. Welch, for parting with one of your wobbly rocks and noticing that I noticed some things in your work, that I noticed the handcrafted quality. Robert Graves, when he was reading at Hunter College on the 9th, said, I think he said, quoting Bertha, genius is not superhuman exertion, but naturalness. This needs no answer. You haven't time. Marianne Moore. May 25th, 1963. So a little sequence. Yes, Mr. Welch, I am for squeak, shack simple, most therapeutic. You raised my spirits. Sorry I have to leave you, as it may seem like, for good, and beset by civilization of every known variety, by nature private. No hiding place, is there? M.M. 8 years later, Lew is gone, having found a very good hiding place, and she survives him by 9 months. I saw myself, a ring of bone, in the clear stream of all of it, and vowed always to be open to it, that all of it might flow through, and then heard, ring of bone, where ring is what a bell does. He asked for guidance. Avalokiteshvara, Buddha of compassion, original bodhisattva, who spoke the Prajnaparamita Sutra of the heart. Kannan in Japan, Kuan Yin in China, Chen Rezik in Tibet. No God but guide, oh, countless thousands of returning men and women of every place and time. As Virgil for Dante through Dante's hell, please guide me through samsara. I'll close with a piece for Lew, snapshot for Lew Welch 25 years later, written for Magda Craig's book that she put out, Hey Lew. Hold on to the bright time memories. Bolinas Bay eases in with flat, smooth curves in front of the slope which gradually falls away through the years. A turkey buzzard family of 3 are hunched atop a bent-over branch. One raises its wings to the early morning sun to dry. Directly downslope behind them, white, lacy patterns of water fill the picture. A while to groom and wait to small circles breaking the surface of the bay down there, a sure indication of edible water dwellers. Curving antlers of a young buck rise through the scrub at the bottom of the gully. A bit of transplanted pampas grass waves airily. The turkey buzzard, with wings outstretched is still a totem. The deer still, as it gazes frozen upslope at me, penning this down for you. Then such a beautiful exiting white furry rump, just like Lew's hair. Thank you.